up on This Week in Iowa, a review of the flooding in central Iowa that hurt so many. Then a conversation with Republican Congressman David Young. We talked to him about tariffs and immigration this week, plus what's going on to address Iowa's children's mental health needs. Thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed. We start This Week in Iowa with the historic flash floods in central Iowa. Raging floodwaters inundated the metro last weekend, dumping more than 8 inches of rain in some places. Now, as we turn the page on a new month, the sun is shining, but parts of central Iowa have been left in shambles, and they're forced to begin a long and difficult cleanup process. Residents in Des Moines, Ankeny, Johnston, Clive, Urbandale, and Pleasant Hill are now cleaning up and trying to figure out how to get the help they need. Governor Kim Reynolds got an up-close view of the damage across central Iowa this week. She stopped at 3 different communities there. She saw homes and businesses that were hit the hardest by that flooding, including some people who won't be able to move back into their homes. The governor issued an informal disaster proclamation on Sunday, but wasn't able to take full action until all local governments acted first.
One of the other reasons we waited until Monday is we've continued to see more and more counties be added with the rainfall that we've experienced, and so we want to make sure that we're capturing all of them again.
Something just about Iowans in general, and then when kind of these disasters strike, we've got some true grit, and we come together, and there's nothing that can keep us from going forward.
The governor issued those disaster proclamations for 4 different central Iowa counties. They're still assessing just how much the total bill will be to help fix everything. One person died during those flash floods, and he was a legend in broadcasting in our state. That man was well-known radio personality Larry Kotler. The 65-year-old was loved by many in the community. Larry recently battled cancer. He leaves behind a wife and stepson. We talked to one of his fellow sportscasters. Joe Stacy worked with Larry Kotler at the Iowa Barnstormers. He got very emotional when thinking about working with the games without him.
He was my right-hand man. He was my color commentator. And, you know, we're playing for a championship this Saturday night. And it's going to be tough to crack that mic and know that Larry's not there. He wanted nothing than the Barnstormers to win an indoor football league championship, and we're talking about getting our rings together, and if they win this Saturday night, we'll get Larry's ring.
And at that championship game this weekend, the Barnstormers held a fundraiser for the Kotler family. We are going to take a quick break, but coming up next, we are sitting down with Congressman David Young, asking him about the flood recovery efforts in central Iowa and what help he's getting for these residents.
Local 5 on your side means answers to your questions.
And we're just doing the stories that the community wants us to do, to empower you with something as a viewer that you can move forward with.
What drives these people to go above and beyond and be exceptional Iowans? That's stuff we can all use in our own lives.
To be able to be that line of connection for people is huge to them, and they can reach out to Local 5, and they're going to get answers.
We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
I'm a writer. If I went down, I'd want the resources and experience of a powerful law firm on my side. Call Hupy and Abraham right now.
One of my grandfathers came to this country when he was a little boy in 1923 with his brothers and sisters, but he's detained because he has one arm. His family got an appeal, and the judge walks in. And my grandfather saw that the judge had one arm, and he used to tell this story around the Thanksgiving table. That's when I knew I would be an American.
95 years ago, an act of shared humanity kept a family together. If it seems like we've lost that lately, maybe it's time to get it back.
I'm John Delaney, and I approve this message.
Season 2 is coming.
Who's ready to be the next American hero?
From big cities to small towns, come out to audition and live out your dream.
You're going to Hollywood!
Alexa, give me my Local 5 news headlines.
I'm Local 5 Sabrina Ahmed with today's top stories.
Set up your flash briefings by adding the We Are Iowa skills to your Alexa app.
You'll hear Local 5's top news stories updated 4 times a day.
And plan your day with We Are Iowa's most accurate weather team. As I tell you if you need this or these?
Go to weareiowa.com/Alexa for easy setup instructions.
Alexa, tell me We Are Iowa's most accurate forecast.
I'm Local 5 meteorologist Taylor Canoes.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back, everyone. Congressman David Young was home in the 3rd District when the flash floods overtook central Iowa last Saturday night. I sat down with him to talk about the devastation and what he can do to help.
Well, I was in my bed monitoring the situation with the rain. Didn't anticipate, like a lot of folks, that it was going to do as much damage as it did. But it's pretty devastating, and I had the chance to tour the flooding areas with the governor and with the Polk County FEMA Director Mumm, and pretty devastating. And it's about people first, taking care of people, and then the property second. What I got out of this as well was just not just the devastation and the impact that it has on people's lives, but the resilience that Iowans have to bounce back and hear their stories and know that they're thankful that they're alive. Unfortunately, we did lose a life in this. It could have been a lot worse, though.
What was your reaction when you did get to see the devastation up close when you went to the hardest hit areas?
Well, you know, the people that it hit, I mean, you give them a hug, and they come to you and just say, thank you for being here and realizing what has happened. You know, any resources that can be available, you know, please remember us. And of course, that's, you know, why I was there with the governor and local officials as well, the mayor of Des Moines, the mayor of Clive as well.
You were at the emergency management briefings. You went and toured those. Why is it important for a congressman to be a part of that?
Well, you know, I want to know what's going on in the district. When something as impactful as this storm, you know, I want to see what's happening on the ground and see where, as a federal official, I can be helpful and kind of nudge the wheels of government that sometimes run too slow to pay attention to what's going on, like FEMA or the Army Corps of Engineers. But the emergency workers from the weather folks monitoring the weather, the transportation officials, the police department, the fire department, you know, works in such great, you know, cohesion. Very, very impressed with that. And they, you know, they did a lot to really, you know, halt, you know, some things that could have been worse.
Absolutely. So, of course, you saw the devastation and how quickly the water came in and flooded so many different places. But the real work now is trying to pick up the pieces. So what are you telling these families and these business owners that you're talking to who can't go back into their house ever, whose restaurants are closed indefinitely?
Yeah. Well, I told them to make sure that, you know, at the local level, those needs are being taken care of. And so whether it's the American Red Cross or the Polk County emergency management officials, you know, dialing 211 to see how you can get some help. Also warning them not to be scammed, because there's some scammers out there who want to take advantage of Iowans when it comes to these things. So, you know, you really keep your antenna up on some of these groups that come by and say they can help, or to give them money so they can help others. Keep your antenna up.
So you mentioned that you are going to be able to help get those wheels turning at some of the federal level areas to make sure that Iowans get the relief they need. What part do you have in deciding whether a declaration of disaster needs to be made on a federal level, and what's the threshold for that?
Well, you know, as a member of Congress, you know, not a whole lot, really none at all. That has to come from the bottom up. You know, the county asks for assistance at the state level, and if the state is needing assistance, then they'll make that declaration at the state level to ask the federal officials, really, you know, FEMA, Army Corps of Engineers, maybe some Health and Human Services, maybe, and asking them for some help. And that's when, you know, when that declaration is made at the state level to the federal level, that's when myself and members of the whole Iowa delegation on both sides of the aisle, we work together to get, make sure that the attention is there and that the wheels of government move a little faster to get that relief.
What do you think is the likelihood of a federal disaster declaration?
I'm going to leave that to the governor. I'm not going to speak for her, but she is out there assessing and listening, and she's on the ground.
Now, this is the biggest natural disaster you've had to deal with in Congress, right?
Yeah.
So what is it like for you as not only a congressional leader, but also an Iowan?
Yeah, so it's heartbreaking because these are people that not just you represent, but, you know, in Iowa, we just have this sense of community, right? We work hard, we're nice, we look out for each other. And when one person is suffering, you say to yourself, wow, that could be me or my family. You know, how can I sympathize and empathize and just also be thankful in a way that it didn't happen to you, but it could.
Right.
It could.
We have much more from our conversation with Congressman Young after the break. Stick with us.
A Hollywood actress.
My daughter told me her boyfriend hits her. Hit me hard, he broke my jaw.
Claims she's trapped in a real-life soap opera.
Are you being abused by this man?
No.
Then why are you sending your mother pictures of bruises?
The bruise was from me falling because I was drunk.
You said he broke my jaw.
It's not true. You're lying.
We know you're a liar. We just want to know if it's then or now.
On the next Dr. Phil.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
We Are Iowa's most accurate weather team tracks the storm.
Flooding is probably our greatest risk going into tomorrow night because any rain could cause flash flooding.
5.5 inches in 3 hours. We have had a flash flood emergency.
Providing information you need to make important decisions.
There were several mandatory evacuations.
Walnut Creek at 63rd has officially reached record stage.
We are going to continue bringing you coverage until the threat has ended.
Because at Local 5, we are Iowa.
This station seeks groups that regularly send information about work opportunities to job applicants or that have applicants to refer. If your group would like to receive notification of job vacancies at our station, contact us by U.S. mail, email, or by calling 457-9645. Individuals interested in employment in the broadcast industry are encouraged to visit weareiowa.com for a list of current job openings. Nexstar Broadcasting Companies are an equal opportunity employer.
I have a friend who's married. He makes comments on all my Facebook posts. How do I tell him that a like would be more than enough?
Do you have to read what he says?
Next airing from NCIS, Emily Wickersham.
There was like this crime scene down the street, and I felt like I should go in and kind of assess the situation.
Then, got a smartphone? We show you how to save big.
I'm going to give you an app so easy.
I know everybody likes hearing that.
Monday at 3 on Local 5. You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing our conversation with Congressman David Young, and now we want to talk about a big issue on a lot of Iowans' minds, the immigration crisis on the border. I asked the congressman about policy and progress on the controversial issue. If you could have a group conversation with those producers, with those farmers, what would you tell them? What do you tell them when you're here in Iowa visiting with your constituents?
Well, first of all, I would be, having my ears open more than my mouth open and listening to how this is impacting them, the producers, the pork producers, the cattlemen and cattlewomen and corn and soybean growers. What are you feeling? What are you sensing? And, the tariffs have come into effect. I don't like tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. It raises the prices on consumer goods. It makes a real impact with employers as well, because if the price of a commodity is higher, like aluminum and steel, and people are buying that to manufacture something, they may have to make a decision to lay off a worker or cut back on hours, so it can have a real economic effect. So I'm worried about the retaliation as well on agriculture specifically, because that's where these countries know they can harm us and hit us pretty hard. And Iowa's an agriculture state. That's our economy. And, it resonates in the overall economy, even in central Iowa, in our larger cities in Iowa. It can have a real effect. And so I'm worried about the trade battles, which is, segueing into a trade war. So I hope that the president is listening. I led a letter with the Iowa delegation, bipartisan, to the president saying, this is real. It's affecting people's lives in a real way, economically, and then emotionally as well. Because, when your agriculture income is down 4 years in a row, that's tough enough. But then you have these tariffs and a trade war possibly. That hits home pretty hard. It's a real gut punch, and we got to get out of it. So I hope the president has a plan. I want to take it to China as well, because they've been a bad actor, a really bad actor. The past 5 presidents have talked about China. Well, we do have a president now who's doing something about it, and so I do respect him for that and wanting to take it to him to get a better deal for Americans.
But at the cost of Iowa.
That's the question. What is the cost, and how long can Iowans take this? And still a lot of Iowans, even farmers and producers, are saying give the president some more leeway, some more rope on this, give him a little more time to see if we can get something done.
How much time is too much time?
That's really dependent on the producers and the farmers and what they're telling us.
So what are you hearing while you are here back home?
They say give the president a little bit more time. It's about 50-50. The commodity groups, they want to represent their folks very well and be diligent with them and make sure that that economic sector is growing. but they're very, a lot of people are skittish.
So what is the end game?
That's the question, How does the president land this plane? I hope he does it sooner rather than later, and that we do get a deal. But I wouldn't have started out with tariffs. I would have sat down with China, Mexico, or Canada, other countries in the EU, and said, hey, let's talk about what we're doing here in terms of a trade agreement and our products and how we're using them back and forth with one another. And we all want the best for our countries and our people. I would have started sitting down at the table and maybe even, gone to the World Trade Organization and issued a complaint, because at times we can be successful there as well.
So you think this is the wrong path?
I would not have done tariffs at all.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk immigration. Can you just give us kind of your overall impression of what's happening with the migration issues at the Texas-Mexico border?
Well, I think there are people trying to escape some pretty horrible situations, specifically in Mexico and Central America. I mean, we tend to think specifically about our southern border. It's horrible, probably, what they're escaping from and they're fleeing, giving up everything and trying to find a better life for themselves. So I don't begrudge them of that. And America is the place to go, but we do have, a border, and we do have laws, and we want to make sure that we are enforcing the laws as best as we can. Now, are there some components of the law that maybe aren't as compassionate as we would like or thought they were? There are some, and so, we had a vote a few weeks ago, to keep families together at the border. That was part of a broader immigration bill, which helped DACA recipients as well, and also secured the border, and I voted for that.
Why do you believe that Congress hasn't been able to pass any firm immigration plan, anything comprehensive yet?
Well, I think too many people are looking for that perfect law, and you're never going to get a perfect bill and find that perfect law, unfortunately, because there's so many voices out there. And you have to learn how to, ensure that, they say perfection is the enemy of good. You can do some really, really good things and move the ball forward. Maybe not as far as you want, like a touchdown pass at 80 yards, a Hail Mary in the end zone. Sometimes it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But you got to move the ball forward. There are so many different voices out there in Congress with different philosophies and different ways of approaching this. But, it was time to move, and that's why I supported this last round of votes on immigration.
What are you willing to compromise on, and what do you say absolutely has to be in that legislation?
Well, I think that you have to make sure the border's secure. I think you have to as well take care of those who are DACA recipients, who were born here, have been good, upstanding people, obeying the law. Some are, in our military. Some have started small businesses. Some, are in college. And so, putting, border security and help for the DACA community, I think, some people want to do those separately. I think you have to compromise and do them together. And maybe, not everybody's going to get everything they want, but sometimes you have to do that. Compromise doesn't mean you have to give up your principles or values, though. It just means you don't get everything you want.
And we'd like to thank Congressman Young for coming to our studios to visit with us this week. Coming up next, we are switching gears to talk about mental health in Iowa, especially among our youngest. There's a new state board with members from all areas of health. We speak to one member next.
Toyota's Star Spangled Sales Event is here. Enjoy patriotic deals right now on your favorite Toyota models. Choose from the adventurous RAV4, the bold Camry, the family-friendly Highlander, the rugged Tacoma, and the fun Corolla. Don't wait. The Star Spangled Sales Event won't be around forever, and neither will these exceptional deals. Lease Camry for $229 a month, including $500 lease bonus cash, or get 1.9% APR plus $500 bonus cash. Toyota, let's go places.
Oh, there's something so real about Central Iowa, about the people and the places where we live. There's a pride around here that's been growing with the years, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I love to live and love local. Central Iowa is where I want to be. We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
Join us every Sunday at 10 on Local 5 for the Iowa Realty Sunday Home Show, featuring new construction neighborhoods around the metro by the best builders in the market. We chat with builders and Iowa Realty professionals about open house, trends in the industry, financing information, and existing inventory. And our special Great Iowa Home feature each week showcases a luxury home listed by Iowa Realty. Now in our 34th year at 10 a.m. Sunday on Local 5 or at iowarealty.com.
A Hollywood actress.
My daughter told me her boyfriend hits her. Hit me hard, he broke my jaw.
Claims she's trapped in a real-life soap opera.
Are you being abused by this man?
No.
Then why are you sending your mother pictures of bruises?
The bruise was from me falling because I was drunk.
You said he broke my jaw.
It's not true. You're lying.
We know you're a liar. We just want to know if it's Dan or Nan.
On the next Dr. Phil.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are finishing off our show with a discussion about Iowa's children's mental health system. We're joined now by Peggy Huppert with the Iowa chapter of National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. And first of all, Peggy, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So the big headline this week is about the governor's announcement about the appointments for the individuals on the Children's System State Board. So you got one of those positions. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Explain to us what this board does. It's a new board.
It is. And we're very excited because we don't currently have a children's mental health system in Iowa. We need to have one. And we've been talking about it for way too many years. So I was really happy to see the governor take action and appoint this board, and the board has to come back with a set of recommendations to her by November 15th.
The state does not have a children's mental health
No, not a system. So adults have a system that is managed by and paid for by the counties, so county mental health tax levy. So it's not that children don't receive services, they do. But it's very scattered. It's very much dependent on where you live and who you have connections with. There are providers, but they've been kind of pitted against each other in a very competitive system. So it's fragmented. There's no accountability, and there's very little coordination.
So your job is to come up with recommendations to create this system.
Yes.
Your first meeting is in August.
Yes.
Quite a daunting task.
Yes. Yes. It's gonna be a short timeline. Although the board it's going to continue. So that's what I like about it is our first job is to come up with these recommendations, but then we will continue to advise the governor and the legislature and hopefully make sure that things get done.
So I want to just talk about a few other big names on the board along with you, Peggy. There is Ryan Wise, the director of the Iowa Department of Education. Gerd Klaubaugh, the director of the Iowa Department of Public Health. Mary Neubauer, the vice president of the Iowa Lottery, who lost her son to suicide.
Right.
And Jerry Foxhoven, the director of the Iowa Department of Human Services. So lots of names on the list, many more than just those we mentioned, but those are just people who we've worked a lot with here with This Week in Iowa. Can you tell us if you're happy about the way the list has shaped up?
Well, the executive order that the governor issued a while back, it's very specific, says we're going to have people representing these various constituencies and groups. There were 18. So it was I thought it was well thought out in terms of who should be on it. And with children, you know, school is their work, right? So it's really important to be involving teachers in the education system. But there are a lot of other people that need to be involved as well. And that's part of why actually it's a little tougher with kid systems, because there's a lot of different entities involved. And of course, with kids, you have to have parents involved as well. So I think we have the right people, and I'm looking forward to getting to work on it.
Is there a state system elsewhere that you might try to model this system after, one that's been very successful?
Well, there certainly are other states that have children's systems, and in most states, it's not divided the way it is here in Iowa. But we have this history in Iowa of having the counties be responsible for adult mental health. I think it remains to be seen what's going to happen if the children and adult systems continue to be separate, or if they are going to be combined. I think there's arguments to be made both ways.
Okay, what would you think would be a a better outcome?
I think they should be combined. It just makes sense. Part of it is, you know, when people turn 18, they don't magically, you know, change. There's a lot more coordination and integration that can and should be done between with adolescents and aging out of foster care, going into the adult system, that is not being done. But the problem right now is funding, because the adult system has a separate source of funding with the county mental health levy, and the regions that do that are very leery of taking on the children's system without additional funding, which I understand. So that's part of what we'll be looking at.
So do you have any suggestions on how to fund a state children's mental health system?
Well, Medicaid is a big part of it, so we need to make sure that Medicaid is paying for the things that should be paying for. And I know a big part of that is residential treatment, and that has been a pain point because the MCOs have been insisting that kids leave sooner than what the parents and doctors think they should be. So that's an issue. But also, it could be the state sales tax. It could be another potential form of funding.
Peggy Hubbard, thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
One of the dangers of having a heart that's so full of love for others is that heart is vulnerable when you see something bad happen to those that you love, or when you see them walking away from the faith. It's often difficult to know how to respond in those situations. Pastor Jeske is going to give us some encouragement from the Word of God today on Time of Grace on this station.
My daughter told me her boyfriend hits her. Hit me hard, he broke my jaw.
Claims she's trapped in a real-life soap opera.
Are you being abused by this man?
No.
Then why are you sending your mother pictures of bruises?
The bruise was from me falling because I was drunk.
You said he broke my jaw.
It's not true. You're lying.
We know you're a liar. We just want to know if it's then or now.
On the next Dr. Phil.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
At Local 5 on your side means answers to your questions.
And we're just doing the stories that the community wants us to do, to empower you with something as a viewer that you can move forward with.
What drives these people to go above and beyond and be exceptional Iowans? That's stuff we can all use in our own lives.
To be able to be that line of connection for people is huge to them. And they can reach out to Local 5, and they're going to get answers.
We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
This station seeks groups that regularly send information about work opportunities to job applicants or that have applicants to refer. If your group would like to receive notification of job vacancies at our station, contact us by U.S. mail, email, or by calling 457-9645. Individuals interested in employment in the broadcast industry are encouraged to visit weareiowa.com for a list of current job openings. Nexstar Broadcasting Companies are an equal opportunity employer.
Thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. We hope to see you again next Sunday.